Remember now, these people were slaves and really had nothing as far as we could tell. I mean, they were slaves and they made bricks without the straw and had nothing. But each woman shall ask of her neighbor and any woman who lives in her house for silver, gold jewelry, and for clothing. You shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, so you shall plunder the Egyptians. So God is saying, you're going to leave Egypt, and you're not going to leave a poor,
empty-handed,
empty slave. And
that's good.
You're supposed to ask for the, and we talked about this morning, we talked about the word plunder. And in today's world, plunder means to steal or take by force. But we concluded with some help from some of the other material that the plunder used here is not the original word. And what God was saying is basically, you're not going to leave the Egyptians with anything. You are to ask for it, and they are going to give.
Wow.
And they are going to give you. So you are
not empty.
Not empty.
Right.
And so we go back a few more pages. The people of Israel had also done as Moses told them, for they had asked the Egyptians for silver, gold jewelry, and for clothing, and the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Basically, they took all the wealth,
wiped them out,
of the Egyptians. And a mixed multitude also went up with them, and very much livestock, both flocks and herds. So now you got these people that are leaving that had nothing.
That now have basically everything.
Right.
They now have
loaded
the
down.
herds, the livestock, the chickens, the gold, the silver, the whole schmear.
She has
Okay? Okay. I'm going to go on here.
That's good.
And they came, everyone whose heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit moved him, and they brought the Lord contributions to be used for the tent of meetings. Now, they're ready to build the tabernacle in the wilderness.
Yes.
And God told Moses he needed to collect gold, silver, and parts and pieces and everything. And there was no raw materials out there in the desert where they were. They were in the wilderness. And so they told him to bring it. And so, and they brought the Lord contributions to be used for the tent of meetings and for all its services and for the holy garments. So they came, both men and women, all who were of willing heart, brought brooches, earrings, signet rings, and armlets, all sorts of gold objects, every man an offering of gold to the Lord. So, well, let me go ahead and just read the rest of this, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking. And they received from Moses all the contributions that the people of Israel had brought for the doing the work on the sanctuary. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came each from their task and that he was doing, and said to Moses, the people bring much more than enough for doing the work, and the Lord has commanded of the work the Lord has commanded us to do. So Moses gave a commandment that the word was proclaimed though throughout the camp, that no man or woman do anything more for the contribution of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing for the material that they had sufficient to do all the work that was done. So the thing that I'm trying to say with this whole thing, you go from a slave that had nothing to being rich and having everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they got ready to build the temple, they needed wood. It talks about the gopher wood and the different wood that they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the poles that held the tent up were in silver pedestals or gold pedestals. And the study of the temple is a really interesting thing.
Yes.
But so Moses said, we're out here in the middle of the desert. We're going to build a tabernacle. We're going to build a sanctuary. And these people who had nothing now have everything.
Mm.
But they're willing at this point to sacrifice it.
Yeah. Give it time.
God had brought them through the Red Sea, brought water out of the rock, provided manna, provided the birds that they ate.
Mm-hmm.
God had brought so many things.
Mm-hmm.
They were disobedient at the mount and things, but God had done things. And when it come time to build the temple, they were willing to give up everything. The thing I'm trying to say is God knows our needs.
Yes.
God can provide,
Everything.
can
Yes.
and will and does
Amen.
provide our needs.
Yeah.
And then God also asks us to be sensitive to the work, and if there's a need,
That we can
He
fulfill.
that we ask us to sacrifice. And I think for them in the desert, because they didn't know, they knew they were going to a beautiful land that God had promised them, but they didn't know what the jobs were going to be. They didn't know what this future held, and they had the wealth in their hands, and they could have, but they brought so much that the coffers were overflowing. And Moses had to say, it's enough, it's enough, it's enough, don't bring no more. And
That's
God
a problem to have.
knows our needs
He
and
does.
will fulfill those needs if our heart is right.
Is in the right place.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
That's it.
Amen.
Another thing, Kenny,
You can go get your wife.
I don't need to leave out.
Oh,
Kenny, another thing
Getting there.
is he used his enemy's stuff.
yeah,
I mean, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
it all
used
came
his-
from you.
He used his,
He's an 8.
he used all his,
What
the
time do you?
people that
Look at the
hated
clock, it's
him
up on the
and-
wall.
Right.
On top.
I mean, I don't know what the principle is there.
Yeah.
You see it up
But
there?
he used
Seven.
their
I was
riches,
just wondering what time you were leaving.
their
Yeah.
stuff, and then
So,
he built the tabernacle.
Eat it
Yeah.
before you leave.
I don't know, it's gotta be
The
something.
wealth
She
of
said
the
she got
wicked
one.
is laid up
She
for the
forgot.
just.
Right.
No, but I was thinking
Right.
that while you were telling
I got a
it,
Yes.
picture
Not
of
only
her
did he-
holding the book.
did the people willing to give it, but
and
he used the people that hated him,
because they
maybe.
used that word plunder, I really believe that they left Egypt with whether they had the means to get more wealth or trade or what, but they basically took all the wealth
Yeah.
out of Egypt.
Well, you figure if it says that they had, what's interesting that, a couple things interesting. For one, he instructs Moses to ask the women to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And then he says to put it on your children. I mean, literally, if they've got gold chains, silver chains, I mean, literally, they're putting stuff on the children just to help carry the amount of
Right.
wealth they're bringing out.
Right.
It must have been incredible. And I
What?
figure
Yeah.
about 2 million people.
Why
Right.
did he do women? Because women wear jewelry? I
Well,
mean,
No, I don't think so. I think, Snickers, what are you doing? Hey, you stop. I gotta wash my hands now before I eat pie.
Snick,
I don't know.
I mean, I
But it
wonder,
is interesting, you know, and I just think it goes to the idea that God uses both men and women in a service.
right.
Mm-hmm.
come on,
Yeah.
And also, it means that the women then should be out raising money for
They
us.
don't. They don't.
now show me where that is in scripture.
That's
See
what
that-
Penny was getting at there.
That's right.
You know, all right, so we want pie and ice cream, right?
That sounds good.
Well, it just really amazed me that they went from nothing
Yes.
to basically
Having wealth.
very
Well, and being
wealthy.
slaves, like you
They went
said.
from, yeah,
Not
slave,
only did they have
nothing.
nothing, but they were the servants. You know, they were lorded over. They were had taskmasters.
Right.
They were beat. They were punished. They were
And
put to work like dogs.
And
And they-
another way to look at it. So now they weren't slaves the whole 400 years. They weren't slaves
Right,
until after
no.
Joseph dies, but
Yes.
they're slaves for well over 300 years.
Yes.
So it's like they're getting their back wages,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
you know, for all that labor
Definitely.
Yeah,
that they had done.
Yes. And that's what I believe God too was seeing that justice was done. That, you know, not only did they go out with the provision that they needed, but they were being reimbursed for all the work they had done and
Yeah.
all the labor. Because what the Bible says, the laborer is worthy of his hire, right?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah. But, you know, we probably couldn't handle going from that poverty
Yeah.
to that wealth.
Right.
It would destroy us.
Yeah.
And money has destroyed many
Yeah.
a man.
Right.
They do foolish things when
Right.
they get it. And,
And now that they got it,
mhm.
God says, I want it to build. I want it to build a tent out here in the desert.
Mm, yes.
You know, I mean,
Right.
I mean,
His
they weren't even
sanctuary.
in a beautiful city where they were going to build a great Ephesus.
Right.
They were going to build a tent in the desert,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And-
God's glory is worthy.
and they brought it in, and they were willing to bring more and
Yeah.
more and more.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to remember that God will meet your needs
Yes.
as much as we try to take that responsibility on ourselves.
Mm,
And He don't want us to be slothful,
right.
but
But trusting Him
But-
and
yes,
putting our faith in Him and not in us and what we do and in man and workplace or job or whatever it may be.
so
He's our source.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyhow, that was my thought.
Amen.
Did a good
Thank
job.
you.
All right, I'm gonna